What's going on, everybody? Ep.34 here. Welcome back to Badum Biz. All right, today on the show, we got Joe Fee. He is a percussionist, all-around musician, actually, and a composer. He's actually one of the best musicians that I know. Yeah, we talk a lot about classical music, new classical music. We talk a lot about percussion-centric music, specifically the stuff that we used to play together in college. We get to hear examples of his music, his compositions. I play a portion of that during the episode. We even do some live music performance because he was live in studio. It was fantastic to see him. And, I mean, we were just joking around a lot. I mean, he's such a fun dude to hang out with. Please go check out his links down below. Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. Check out his music. And please enjoy the episode. His name is Joe Fee. And he's right in front of me in the studio. I'm so excited. Welcome, Joe.
Nice. Thanks so much, Anthony. It's really fantastic to come here. And like I was saying to you before, I've been checking out your show here since the spring, since you told me about it. It's fantastic to get into the drum talk, and hopefully people can hear what that is.
Yeah, man.
But also like I said before, like all the producers and people like that you have on, coming from that angle is really cool.
Yeah, man. Just trying to I love talking about it. I love getting nerdy about it. I feel like, dude, how many conversations have we had over the years where we get deep into conversation, then we're in and out of comedy bits and shit like that, and it's just fun to experience that. I figured, well, what if we captured that and we just show that other side to all these musicians that I know? That makes me like those musicians more. Do you know what I mean? Like who they are. It makes me want to listen to their music more. And that's me as a musician. Can you imagine the listener? That's why. So I'm glad that you're enjoying the show. I hope people are.
Yeah, for me, to me, there's nothing better than just having a conversation, as simple as that sounds, because I think sometimes you hear like an interview thing, or I've gone to college radio stations and things like that, and everyone's having a great conversation, and then all of a sudden the microphone comes on and there's just awkward silence, and there's awkward questions, and and there's just I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's just really great to hear your show where it's just more of a conversation,
yeah,
and back and forth, and even just kind of hanging out a few minutes ago, what we were talking about, just kind of going back and forth and not really planning anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Joe, I mean, I'll give a little background on. So I met Joe at Montclair State. You studied percussion, classical percussion.
Yeah.
I think, you would consider yourself, you're a composer now.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of that, actually. But you're also a killer guitar player, in my opinion.
Oh, thanks.
I think so. I've watched you play with your brother's band. You were in the band for a while too, Scarecrow Collection.
Yep.
I love that album, Radio Frequency Disaster. I love that album.
Oh, thanks, man.
I fucking love that album, actually. So you just all around. Joe Fee is a really thoughtful musician. It's like your second language, music. I knew that within a year of knowing you. I think I was like, this guy, give him any instrument, he knows music. It's really cool.
Well, yeah, because I think I think there's a vocabulary for each instrument, obviously, and there's a grammar that you have to learn, and rudiments on whatever instrument you're playing. But obviously on a larger level, I think there's just a musical vocabulary that, obviously if you're going to play multiple instruments, you have to master the technique of each instrument. I mean, there's certain challenges that you have to do with the guitar that's different than the drums. But there's definitely musical, universal vocabulary. And for me, I think I'm always kind of thinking mostly about melody. Maybe that's why. I mean, I started playing the guitar kind of at the same time I was playing the drums, maybe like 7, 8 years old, something like that. Maybe the guitar came like a little after, like maybe when I was like 9 or 10 years old or something like that. Once my fingers can like build up the strength and things like that. But I kind of started drum set and the guitar and the electric bass kind of at the same time. I usually think of myself as a percussionist, though, because that's just like, I don't know, it's just like in my heart. I think I'm a percussionist, and so maybe when I play the guitar or the bass, I kind of even look at it from a percussive point of view. But you know, I always feel like I'm very concerned with melody. And so maybe like playing the guitar helped me with that in terms of playing the drum kit. But, you know, even, you know, playing like whatever, classical percussion, timpani or marimba and all those things, you know, I think there's a certain like melodic phrasing that you can do even on non-pitched drums, toms or drum set or whatever. So maybe that's another thing because I'm thinking a lot of melodically, you know, and maybe that kind of transfers, you know, because melody is pretty much the same, you know. Mastering melodic contour is, I imagine, is pretty similar between all instruments, I guess.
I think when you said the word phrasing, that to me rang more than because that's the thing. I don't know if I understand how, as a percussionist and a drum set player, I don't know if necessarily I'm thinking about melody, but I know I'm thinking about phrasing.
Yeah.
So something consistent, some sort of idea that sort of references itself as it goes on, right? It could be like, I mean, Jesus, we have instruments in front of us, so we will get to jamming, and we'll probably do like an example of what we're talking about. But I love talking about it because everybody's, like, your interpretation of how you play is probably different than how I would explain it. It's fascinating to hear that you're thinking melodically. Like, can you go into, when you mentioned you're a percussionist at heart, like, what is it about being I've talked about it from my perspective on this show, but I'd love to hear your interpretation of what the hell do you mean by percussionist at heart? Because a percussionist's life is way different than like a violinist's.
Yeah, it's a different breed.
Totally different.
I guess, yeah.
Like, what things about being a percussionist do you, I guess, feel like that's your skin, that's the skin that you live in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I think on one level there's really no way to explain it. It's kind of like I was watching, I think it was Stanley Kubrick or some interview, and he's like, that's like asking, like, you know, to explain why you love your wife or something. You know what I mean? I mean, like you could give specific examples about why you love your wife, but it's kind of like, you know, in a certain way, it's nonsensical. It's like it's not even worth the time thinking of it. Yeah. So I think in one way, there's just I can't explain what it is, but I think everybody, even people, I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems to me that if people play multiple instruments, which I guess a lot of people do in some form, you know, it seems like maybe there's one instrument that they really kind of think of themselves as like a violinist or, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, from a young age, I gravitated towards the rhythm section, you know, playing rock and roll, playing pop, drum set. Yeah. You know, there was something about like laying down a groove and just feeling that kind of like, you know, for lack of a better way to say it, that kind of primal energy that you get just laying a groove down, you know, even if it's just like a Ringo Starr, John Bonham groove that's not really changing that much, you know. And I remember just being a kid and just loving, or like James Brown, like just laying that groove down. Yeah. And kind of like listening to what other people were doing on top of it, you know. And it just got me off, man. I don't know. Like I guess maybe it's like you kind of like, it's like you're playing. I guess when you're in the rhythm section, you're playing and you're laying down that groove, but you're also able to kind of like hover above it and hear what everybody else is doing. And I like being in that position as like a drum set player, you know, and it kind of went from there, you know.
I just got so excited, listeners, like, and I'm like pointing at Joe, like, you're onto something, because I actively think about that, and I've asked this question to somebody, and they didn't know what I meant per se, but you hit it. So you know what I'm talking
That's
about.
what got to me first about the drum set, because I played the drum set for a long time before
Yeah.
I did like any classical or hand drum or anything like that.
Same.
You know, yeah,
So you're providing something. It's an active thing. It's not like you could escape it and turn it on autopilot. It's like active constantly, and it takes a lot of skill to actively provide a groove while this idea of hovering above and listening to all the parts and how they blend together. And that's exactly what I love about playing drum set. Even back in the day playing percussion.
yeah.
It was like this, I am a puzzle piece. I like this puzzle piece that I have, but Jesus, I love looking at the whole puzzle that I'm in right now and how my piece fits snug with that puzzle. So that's I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like, okay, cool, somebody else relates to that. So, all right.
Well, that's a good way to put it. That's how I would put it. I guess I like that feeling of being like that part of the puzzle piece that is in that section. You know what I mean? Like not being the lead singer or not being like the main guitar player. Like I just liked being that guy that like was on that bottom puzzle piece. You know, but the cool thing about it is like, you know just as well as anybody that you could be playing a groove and all you have to do is just slightly shift it. And then whatever happens on top is obviously going to relate to that or change, and they're going to improvise differently based on that. So I also like that too. It's kind of like you're like a conductor, but like from the bottom level, and your energy is like permeating out into the melodies.
What you meant by what you just said would be like it's just a slight altered note. One note could be altered, and how it could be an accent, it could whatever, but because it's a different input. Slightly different input, the other parts that are also playing with you, gelling with you, but there's also this reaction to what you did.
Exactly.
And then now you actually have a chain of communication that everybody, at least especially in the rhythm section, could together now alter the entire thing based on your like little improvisation, thoughtful improvisation, hopefully. Because obviously we could talk about this, because this idea of you mentioning, right, this is cool about you. You mentioned right away groove. Like, do you remember learning what groove was? And do you remember not knowing what groove was?
By the way, you're speaking to the drummer of Da Groove Commanders, which is another band I'm going to plug that I was in that we haven't played in a while. Have you heard us?
No.
I'm gonna plug Scarecrow Collection, which is the band I played drum set in, and then, but I was also the drummer in not the Da Groove Commanders. Mm-hmm. So if you're gonna ask me where the groove comes from, I'm sorry, what were you asking me? Anyway, listen to the Groove Commanders.
Listen to Da Groove.
Listen to Da Groove Commanders. But no, it is. It's all about the groove, man. I mean, it sounds corny to say, but
do you remember not identifying that there is this thing of a groove? Which,
I see. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you remember what? And then what is the groove? The groove to me, without getting too detailed, it's the energy that's being transmitted when playing something.
Yeah.
And I think a violinist could groove. I think.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? A didgeridoo could groove, right? It's this subtle thing, but we all feel it rather than hear it. We feel it, right? Do you remember not identifying with that and maybe playing music in the beginning without trying to groove?
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember not trying to groove.
Well, no, meaning like you didn't know that it existed.
Oh, didn't know that existed?
Because I'm telling you, like, you were the one to tell me, hey, dude, like, can you groove that? Can we make that groove a little bit?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm getting at here.
Yeah, no, it's always about the groove for me, man. Especially because when I was playing the drum set, when I was playing in the band I had with my brother, actually, he was the lead singer, Scarecrow Collection, which you played in as well.
Yep.
It was about the groove, but we were kind of like in the jam band scene with all those kind of groups, like the Grateful Dead kind of groups and things like that. And so there was a lot of dancing involved.
Yeah.
as well. And I started playing in that group when I was like 11 or 12 years old. So
Shit.
like, we were
Yeah.
doing like music festivals, like Gathering of the Vibes and all those kinds of things as I was growing up. And like, so it was about the groove, but I was always in situations where people were also dancing at these shows
Mm-hmm.
or the clubs or festivals or whatever it is. And so, like, I guess it was just like always a part of me that like whatever's happening should be grooving,
Okay.
and it's interesting what you say about changing the groove before and how the other people in the band relate to it, because that also goes to the audience too, because you start shifting the groove a little bit. You could kind of see. I used to like watching people
Yeah.
dance. If you get a good audience and they're dancing, you kind of shift the groove a little bit, or sometimes I would kind of even mess around and maybe do even some more avant-garde things just for the fun of it, or joke or something. But you could shift it or stop the groove or do whatever you want to do, and whether they know it or not, it's
Yes.
it's changing how they're dancing. But I also agree with what you said that like everything can groove. I mean, if you're playing a Beethoven symphony, like it's got a groove
Gotta
too.
groove.
And even if you're playing whatever ionization or Varese or whatever Warning,
Yeah.
whatever you're playing, or Elliott Carter,
Yeah.
Timpani, whatever you're doing, it's got a groove. It
It's
doesn't mean it has to be loud all the time.
exact. Yeah.
But it has to
exactly.
groove.
It's a weird thing, and I try to. We both teach, so I
Yeah.
try to tell my students that are old enough to understand, like playing with energy doesn't mean playing with more volume.
Exactly. I think that's true. Yeah.
It's hard, and even that, it's like going, okay, teacher, well, what the fuck do you mean? And that's where, like, I still don't have the right way of describing what groove is to like the young drummers that I teach. Like, I kind of like have how I discovered it. You know what I mean? I think the way you discovered it is probably the best way. Is that you were actually thrown into situations where people were actually reacting to your playing.
Yeah.
Like that's how you learn that. And then I like, what? I like how you even said making those little alterations or improvisations. You saw the reaction, the chain reaction.
Yeah, and they were not always good reactions too. I mean, you learn very quickly when you change the groove and you get a terrible reaction from
Yeah.
the audience. You learn very quickly.
It's like stand-up
Yeah,
comedy.
yeah. It's like, well, fuck, don't do that again. I mean,
Yeah.
you learn more from that sometimes.
Yeah. That's yeah. Yeah, man.
But I'm very interested by what you just said, because I don't have the answer to that, and it's a really interesting topic of like, how do you teach the groove? You know what I mean? Like, how do you teach those elements? Because it's like it's hard to even put it into words what you actually mean. I mean,
So
when
difficult.
someone's not grooving,
You definitely know that. You can
You
feel
know.
that. You can definitely. It's not a good feeling.
and I used to think that maybe you couldn't teach people those kind of aspects of music, and I don't know if that's accurate. Now I'm thinking maybe you can. I mean, it's hard to know. But I never took formal lessons. Like you say, I was just thrown into situations playing rock music on the drum kit, and I didn't take any formal training there. So it was just like all part of the experience for me with the audience and playing shows and clubs and things.
Yeah. So that's the best. I mean, that's the best exposure to that level of expectation in performance, I would say. And you got it. You said 11, 12, 13. Like, I started at 13, and you started doing that at like 11, 12, 13. That's great. I mean, that's fantastic. And then the fact that, dude, I didn't learn how to groove a room. Like, truly be able to like a switch. Like, I know how to turn that on until I was in like a wedding band and I was paid to do so. Like, you have to do it. You got to keep these people on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it seems like you kind of learned how to harness that ability a little bit at such a young age. I mean,
The audience is the best way. I mean, playing with people that, because I started a little younger, the people that I was playing with in the band were older. which is good too. Like, so playing with older people that are already, you know, well versed in what they're doing is really helpful, because then you have to rise to where they're at, and you're constantly like pushing yourself to get better. But I mean, there's really nothing better than being in front of an audience, you know, consistently, which was great. About the band that I started in, Scarecrow, because it was consistent. That was a good thing about it. I mean, we were playing like, you know, at least maybe 2-3 times a week, like for years, you know, Thursday through Saturday,
and doing original music, right?
And original music too. Yeah, that's another thing. You know, coming up with the parts and and writing the music too. I didn't write the songs. I wrote a couple songs here and there, maybe like some lyrics or things like that, but you know, I would come up with my own like drum parts and stuff like that. But yeah, it's you know, that was a gift, because it was like I said, it was consistent. You know, and so you can consistently see. And there was a couple places I played at like a lot. Like I played at the Bitter End like maybe once a month.
Okay.
For like, you know, like my whole high school years. You know, like almost. I mean, I played there a lot, and it was kind of like a home base. That was like one of the places. And so yeah, you know, that was, you can't dance in that room because it's so small. But there's something really cool about that.
I have my qualms with that place because of what you just said.
Yeah, it's a little tight, but there's some energy there that you can't deny, I think.
Like they get, because of the name recognition, they get like good acts, you know, to play, like good, like really killer musicians.
There's some great musicians there, yeah.
And also not, you know, whatever, all different types.
Yep.
But yes, the way that room is set up, it's like a restaurant style. It's like if you would clear that area and let people stand and fucking dance, oh my God, it would be great. It's funny because I've had good performances there, where the energy's pretty good, but you always felt like, man, there's like this held back energy because people are sitting down at a table. There was a bit of that in the Bitter End. You know, there was some cold moments sometimes, and maybe it wasn't because the audience was cold, but it was just because the way they're set up at those cocktail tables or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the other good place that we used to play a lot was the Wetlands, which was a lot better, because that room had the whole dance floor. Wetlands?
Yeah, you don't know the Wetlands?
Where's that at?
Oh God, that was downtown, man. I forget which. It closed down like in like 2000 or something.
Oh yeah,
like early 2000s, 2003 or something.
I wasn't gigging in the city for a while. Yeah, till.
But that was like whatever, like Blues Traveler in the 90s, and all those guys played there, and Dave Matthews and Fish and all those guys, and like so that was kind of like the jam band, one of the jam band clubs.
You guys didn't seem like a jam band though.
Well, it was weird. We didn't start out that way. We kind of started out as like a folk group, actually. We had a mandolin player.
Yeah.
And it was all acoustic. We had a harmonica player. There was like a folk, like bluegrassy feel to it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of morphed into like a jam band, electric kind of Allman Brothers thing, I guess.
Dude, I got to, and we'll shout out Gerard, your brother.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I love his vocals. Truly. I love that song. What's the one where it's like, shit, I'm terrible with song names. But
me too.
It's like having another.
Oh,
what's
Bottle?
Bottle. That's
I like that song.
That's
that kind of has
song.
like a country vibe to it. I always like those ones that had the country feel to it. You know,
I love I Won't Leave You.
I Won't Leave You There.
Dude, your groove on that tune is so simple, but so fucking. It's challenging to like play.
Oh, thanks.
I remember having, because I was when I was playing with them, I was playing your parts.
Yeah.
And I remember that tune. I remember going like, it's so driving, right? But patient and like right in the pocket, and it's simple. It's like, tell me if I'm wrong. You were just playing something like. Something so simple, and just the whole song, and it had this great energy to it. Like people would be dancing.
Well, it was, you know what it is, talking about the one note thing. You know, I was thinking about the Talking Heads a lot with that groove, because I love the Talking Heads, and like you said, I love how like it's kind of like the beats sound simple, but then when you kind of start playing them, you notice that there's all these like tiny little details and like, you know, whatever. There's like different percussion parts and like a cowbell doing some cool thing or whatever. But like the drum set parts, you know, sometimes they'll just have like that one little note, that one little element that is just interesting, and you kind of don't even realize it sometimes until you start to play it. But like I would do like the straight, you know, eighth notes, I guess, straight eighth notes. But then I would just accent the one before the 2 and 4, like I guess. Like,
was it
something like that? But it wasn't like every time. It was just like that one time. You know what I mean? It was like that one accent before like the second beat or something. Yeah. It was something like
just
that.
One kick, right? It was just, or was it?
Nah, it was one kick. I think so. Fuck. Part of it I don't even remember, to tell you the truth. But you know what I mean, though. Yeah, I'm forgetting the exact thing of it.
But like such a simple, sort of empty beat, right? But like so effective. And the way the way it sounds on the track, too. It's all the way through grooving. And I remember, so like circling all the way back. Like when I met you first couple months, and referencing Taman, like Taman and I were best buds back then in college, like, and I just remember coming in the room, and I think you and Taman were jamming on some shit. Like I think you were on some hand drum, he was on another bunch of like congas or something like that. Maybe you were on your tar or the frame drum, you know?
Yeah.
And the both of you guys were jamming, and then I remember just starting to sit in with you guys, and just what the lesson that I had to learn was, and talking about groove and how you understand it, was first, stop, listen. I think that's probably the first thing you need to do. Just stop and take in what's there, right? Listen. Even if it's just there's nobody playing, put on a track that you know feels good and makes you dance. Listen to it. Like, take it all in. Listen to the fine details. And then you have to slow that energy down, I think, when you play, and like try to you have to try to like be consistent every measure that you play, that whatever that beat is or whatever it is. You have to try to make yourself feel it every time you play it. And like, to you, you're probably like, well, duh, because you started, right, like young, you were playing in. At that, I'm telling you, dude, at that point, if I didn't experience that with you guys, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would have found the groove. You know, it would have taken a little bit longer to find that, like, hey, like, you have to make the simple shit. You have to spend more time on the simple shit to make the simple shit sound and feel really good. Like, nobody's going to hire you or nobody's going to want to play with you because of the complexity of your drum parts. Like, you have to, like that, like a beat like this, like, right?
Those are my favorite beats.
Or even, I mean, you have to play it, and the musicians around you should want to play immediately.
Yeah.
You know, and it took that experience with you guys to learn that. I think it's true with every instrument, but because, like, I guess drummers are coming from like a rudimentary thing, because, listen, as simple as you're playing, you do have to sit at the drum pad and practice all the single stroke roll and doubles, and you got to get that shit clean, and you got to be able to do it real fast, or reasonably fast, and you have to be able to do it slow, and you have to have those chops, and like even to just play the hi-hat eighth notes for a 1 hour set. I mean, you have to work those chops up for years. Absolutely. And so, like, drummers are like always coming from that rudimentary thing, so it's like navigating that, but then when you're playing, it's like what you just said. It's like you don't have to throw everything in at the same time. You got to feel that groove. You got to feel that space. I've been really into Asian calligraphy lately. Really?
For like, I don't know, maybe like, I mean, I've always enjoyed it, but like maybe like the past 6 months or so, I've been really like getting into it and reading about it and talking to people. And what you just said made me think of a conversation I had with a Japanese calligraphy artist that I met over the summer. And about what you just said about like playing with other people and listening and feeling the space. She said something that really blew my mind. She said when a Western person looks at calligraphy, they're looking at the black brushstroke and how beautiful it is. And she said that, when I was growing up with my teacher in Japan, we were looking at the white part of the page and how that stroke manages the empty space.
Oh, wow.
And when she said that, I was like, oh man. I mean, because like we all know it.
Yeah.
We know that like the silence is a big part of it in the space and leaving that. But what you said about fitting in with everybody and playing the groove, and maybe that's a way to feel the groove, because it's like how does that brushstroke manage the space around it? And like I've been, I'm not, I don't know, I'm like a very amateur about it. I like reading about it and looking at the different pictures and calligraphy and studying it. And like the more you look at it, you can kind of see like a master.
Wow.
Is like managing that space, you know what I mean? Like how different artists would draw the same character, but like use the space in a different way or something like this.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And maybe like that's how someone might play a groove in a different way, or maybe that's the thing we were searching for earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like managing the space, and maybe that has an effect.
Absolutely. I try to tell that. What you just said about managing space, I try to tell that to the more advanced students that I teach. Which is, like, you can't cut off an eighth note. You know what I mean? You got to take up all of that time of that eighth note, like, because that's what's gonna make your beat feel good. If you're cutting off notes, though, it's harder. You can't play with feeling if it's not consistent, right? I guess because you're providing the same thing constantly. And if it's changing, I guess it's structure, maybe, like, or it's how do we explain this? It's hard to explain. If you're inconsistent with your time, every time you play it, doesn't matter how much feeling you put into it. It's not consistent, so the person isn't getting the listener's not getting the same thing every time to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just.
Changing is good.
Changing is good when it's in time.
And flowing is good. But if you're changing or flowing, and you don't know that you're doing it, or you're flowing or changing because of a lack of technique.
Yes.
That's a different thing.
Yes.
That's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're talking about classical music, like classical drumming, I used to hate doing the snare drum etudes.
Oh, I love them.
But I used to hate, maybe I shouldn't say that. Interestingly enough, I used to like playing snare drum in the orchestra. I used to like doing that, which was really fun. But I used to have to force myself to do those etudes. But looking back, it's really amazing to do that, because it's about, like you say, like every eighth note. It's about like getting every note as accurate as you can get it. And you can do both at the same time. Like, you can groove. But I maybe like what you're saying, it's like some people, maybe they think groove is like cutting out the notes or doing the note. Like you could be just as accurate as a snare drum etude and groove at the same time.
Exactly.
So I guess it's like a yin and yang. It's like you have to, like you can have both. Like, so you have to have the rudiments and the snare drum etudes and whatever, and you have to use that to build up this like accuracy of technique, this sharpness and clarity, and perfection of rhythm. But you also have to have the groove, and I think you can have both at the same time without sacrificing either one.
I think it's tell me if this makes sense. It would be like somebody like a presidential. Let's use Obama because he's the better one. Like when he speaks, you listen to his words and you are not bored when he's speaking. Is what I'm saying, right? Like,
there's
doing
great
a speech,
speakers,
right? Like somebody saying a speech, or even forget about a presidential candidate. Take
anybody.
Somebody who's like trying to, a character, a personality, inspiration, whatever. If they're not talking with energy, right, and they're reciting something, I don't want to listen to that. Fuck you. I don't want to pay attention to that, right? But if they are, if they are speaking with energy, it's more, I believe you, first of all. I want to listen more to you. So I guess it's similar. If you could play the perfect rhythm, but if you're not trying to show me that even you enjoy playing it in time, like you're having fun with it, if you're not showing that you're having fun with it, then I don't want to listen to you do it. I think there's something to that. Like especially what we were talking about violinists. Do you ever see like a violinist shred? And what I mean by shred, I don't mean, like a Eddie Van Halen type of shred, R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen, but I'm talking more of like, it could be just holding out a note in vibrato at the end of this solo.
Just wailing.
And you see their aura and their energy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just so powerful, that. And it's one note. You know what I mean? It's one note held out with a vibrato. And for whatever reason, that violinist has all of my attention because of that one note. There's something too, if they just played the note accurately without that energy behind it, I would be 90% less enthused.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm really happy that you mentioned like speaking or something, because like going back to the first thing we said, about playing different instruments, like there's a universal vocabulary of music that spans across any instrument, but I think there's a universal vocabulary that spans across any art form at all. And like, I think you could read anything. Like, I mean, I learn about music just from reading anything that's not even about music. Like I was reading, I love to read about like philosophy and things like that and talk about that with different people. And I was reading like Aristotle's rhetoric over the summer and trying to learn about that, like trying to learn about become like a better writer, even if it's like emails or like, how to like say things more accurately. And also because like you said before, I'm doing a lot of composing and like, different like grant writing or different things like this. So I was like, well, let me try to like really try to perfect my writing. I start reading like some of these texts about like rhetoric or different things like that. And then I'm like, you could take exactly that book and put it to a musical context.
Yeah.
And it's the same laws that are applying,
Wow.
Or you could take like, calligraphy, whatever. You could buy a book on like calligraphy. You could do calligraphy if you want to.
Yeah.
And you could probably find the same lessons that you would learn in there, and you apply it. Like I learned a lot from reading Bruce Lee's book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which I would recommend. That was his martial arts technique. That he has a book there. And I was doing that when I was doing my timpani lessons at Montclair State. I found that book because I was studying with, you study with Michael Lipsy too, right?
Yeah.
So I was studying with Michael Lipsy, who's really one of the best percussionists I've ever seen.
Damn right, man.
So shout out to Michael Lipsy.
Fucking badass, man.
Fantastic teacher, unbelievable
Great
player.
teacher. Yeah.
And, and I was studying with him, and I think I got involved in like Eastern philosophy because he was teaching me about John Cage, and we were doing all the percussion John Cage pieces and the constructions and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I was doing like timpani, and so I got into like all this Eastern philosophy and like found Bruce Lee's book, and I found like you could literally take everything, almost anything. I mean, I'm not a martial artist, so I mean, I don't know if everything could be related, but you could take like 90% probably of everything that he's saying, and just instead of talking about how he's saying hitting something or hitting somebody, or talking about some stroke of the hand or the foot or whatever martial arts stroke he's talking about, you put a timpani mallet in your hand and do the same exact technique of channeling the energy through your arm, through your breathing, all these kinds of things that he's talking about, and it's exactly the same thing that you can learn. So I would try to take some of these exercises.
Can you just real fast explain what's the result of doing that on the timpani?
Well, the one thing I learned, Michael Lipsy talked about this too. He turned me on to this. But in Bruce Lee's book, I learned too, he has that kind of famous punch, if you ever see videos of him, the 1-inch punch, where like someone's really close, because he'll talk about, great, you could do all this crazy flowery martial arts stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're in a real fight and some guy's standing 2 inches from you and you need power, you're going to have to try to like harness your power. And I'm not saying I'm some expert in this, but like he talks about, like channeling your breathing and taking like the energy from like your stomach and like your sacrum and all that kind of thing and like channeling it through your arm. And you can kind of do the same thing with like a timpani. If you take the stick and you don't raise it as high, you could keep the mallet kind of close to the head.
Yeah.
But if you hold it like from your pinky and your third finger and you keep it loose and you kind of think of the weight of your whole arm going there, and you think about releasing the stick at the moment of impact, which is like a punch, It's like you release the energy at the moment of impact, and you find that you can get like a real deep tone out of the timpani. You can get a real thick punch out of it, while it's almost like you're conserving energy, but you're getting more energy out of it by doing that in a way.
Mike explained it like, and this is for percussionists, drummers. Let's think of it like this. We're going to talk about height. So that's the level of height that you're raising your stick before it hits the drum, right? And then versus the other, what you're talking about is velocity, right?
Yeah, that definitely has to do with it too. Yeah,
you're minimizing the height, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're kind of putting energy. There's more like it's more faster motion or to the drum, right? But the weight of you have the weight behind it, and the whole goal is especially for the timpani, is the timpani's in the back of the orchestra, so even the closest audience member, you're probably, 40 feet away from the timpani, possibly, maybe more.
Yeah, you're pretty far. I mean, if you're sitting in Carnegie Hall, you could be pretty far, I guess.
So, and low frequencies travel slower, so you're going to hear, like you standing in front of those timpani, you're not even going to hear the full low frequency of those timpani. But somebody out, over 30 feet away will definitely hear it. But Mike was explaining, like, you want to maximize what you're providing in that frequency range. And there's a specific reason why you're on that side of the orchestra. And he was saying, because I remember playing maybe a Beethoven piece or something. And he was saying, you're striking way too high. Do you hear how you're getting like this high frequency pow, pow out of the timpani?
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not the sound you want. And he explained this whole thing that you were talking about. And quite a difference, man. I remember getting compliments from maybe like Barry, the other percussion teacher, Barry Santani, or maybe one of the orchestra director at the time, when you provide a really beautiful sound, and it's undeniable, right? But it takes like thought. It takes some extra thought and like would you say a technique goes beyond the actual like how to hold? It's more of like a technique is like philosophy in a way, right? Sort of.
Yeah, I think so. And like if we're gonna be like drum nerds,
let's do
for
it.
A moment, because I guess this is the place.
Let's do it.
This is what we talk about. You talk about stick height, which when you mention that, especially what I was saying before about like thinking melodically, it goes with the drum set too. But like I spend a lot of time thinking about how high the stick is in relation to like the phrasing and like planning out how high the stick is going to be at different moments. I mean, obviously it has to do with how loud or how soft you're playing, but within that range, you can be in like the same dynamic volume range. But like for instance, I always like when I do recordings of my own pieces. It's not always this way because there's no rule to it. But I always like when people play the end of the phrase a little louder than the beginning.
Okay.
So that it's never like I don't know if I could play like it's never. If I like exaggerate, it's never like, it's not like the beginning. It's always starting lower with your stick and a little lift at the end.
Oh yeah, you give energy.
So always going up.
Yeah. forward motion.
Yeah.
There's a direction that you're Yeah.
Like I was just working on a music video that I've been doing, and there's a bongo part that occurs that way, like a 16th note thing, and it was always that way. Like when I'm like doing the recording with the person that played it, it's just like trying to get them to always do that little lift. I mean, I just exaggerated it now. I mean, you can't exaggerate it. It shouldn't be obvious, but it's like a subconscious thing that you kind of feel. You feel the movement and you feel the energy going upward. But it's all about the stick height, and I think that's the thing I struggle with as a teacher too, because
Sure.
I think that something like stick height is really important to master, but it's kind of boring.
It is.
To teach. Like it's kind of like you get some teenager or 12, 13-year-old and like, listen, it's like you have to kind of sit and deal with that, and it's not maybe the most exciting thing that you could be doing, but you have to practice it. And I think if you do that, it really helps your phrasing.
Oh my God.
Helps your phrasing, and it helps the melody.
Game changer.
I mean, it helps your chops, the whole thing.
Control.
It helps the control. But I mean, the stick height is a huge thing about the melody. But man, I think I went on a little bit of a tangent there, and I lost what we were saying. But speaking of the timpani, I do want to say that I saw you play the Elliott Carter timpani solos. I think you did. Did you do Moto Perpetuo?
Oh, what did I do? I did.
You did a couple. I remember at your recital.
Improvisation. I did. What was the one that starts Canaries? And then I did. Was it Recitative?
We're going to do like real serious drum nerd. We're going to talk about the Elliott Carter timpani solos. No, but I just want to say I went to your senior college recital, and you played those solos, and I wasn't sitting too close. I was maybe like a little further than halfway back, and like you really got the accuracy of the different tones.
Appreciate
and
that,
the different sounds. And I'll tell you, man, everyone in college plays those pieces. But I always remember your performances as sticking out of those pieces, however many times I've heard it, because especially that one, I think it was Moto Perpetuo, the fast one, like all 16th notes or something like that.
I don't know. I don't remember. You know what?
But it was really good, man.
They're up on YouTube, believe it or not.
We could put it on.
We don't have to. I don't want to.
We could listen to the full Elliott Carter. What was it, 8 pieces? But anyway, man, because anyone that knows those pieces knows that there's an extreme amount of delicacy in terms of the different shading of the how do you say the punch and the accuracy or the tone.
Oh, yeah.
Or of each, there's so many different tones he's going for. Attacks, different attacks, different things like that. And yeah, man, articulations, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, man, I think you nailed it. And I always remembered those pieces as being some of my favorite times I heard them, actually.
I appreciate that. And let me return the compliment, because on that same recital, I did one of the marimba, what marimba piece did
Reflections on the Nature Water.
That's the one.
Oh, that's a gorgeous piece, man.
I did 2 of those movements, right?
Yeah.
And one of them was...
That's one of the best marimba songs, I think.
Fuck. What are the names of the first 4?
I think the first... Oh,
do you remember?
Man. The first one is like the dripping one.
Okay.
God, I forget what it's called.
Oh,
that's the last one. I think that was called Relentless.
Okay. And then what was the one that was like a lot of...
That's the second movement, I think. I think that was called Fleeting or something like that.
So for listeners, we're talking about the marimba. It's a 5-octave wooden block. They're basically pieces of wood, like think of xylophone, but huge, right? And it looks like a piano. It's set up like a piano. Mm-hmm. And we had to do this. Like this was a requirement. We had to, as percussionists in college, learn how to play 4 mallet, anything really, but marimba was probably the go-to, right? And it's like you're holding, instead of somebody holding 1 mallet in one hand, 1 mallet in the other, and then you're playing like a xylophone player, we're holding 2 in each hand, and this is weird fucking technique. And you know what? I'll be honest with you, my own belief about this, I don't think that should be required. Marimba, that is. I think it's its own animal, right? I think you can learn a lot from it. I just think it's putting way too much on the percussionist's shoulders. because
Yeah.
it takes so much fucking time. Like it's like learning a different instrument. It's just way, and then you don't even understand until you get better on musically, just in your mind. You understand music better. You understand your own instrument, like me on drum kit, better. And years later, I look back and I go, "Fuck! I didn't even understand certain concepts that I could have applied to that instrument."
The marimba?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just because I was so busy fighting the actual technique and all that,
Yeah.
right?
Well, if you're coming from drum set like me, and a lot of people, and then you start doing the 4 mallet marimba stuff. I mean, it's a whole nother world.
I remember you though, bringing it back to you. I remember you were the one to introduce me to that because you were playing it for your recital, and I remember like would come into the practice room and you'd be in there with a metronome going like 35 beats per minute, like, you know what I mean? And you'd be practicing this lick and it was probably going dun 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 dun, dun something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And then you would again dun 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 dun, dun and you would do it 30 times in a row. And you would do it the same way 30 times in a row. And I remember asking like, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm just trying to, you couldn't even, I don't even know if you were like, you were just like, I'm in it. And you didn't explain it. And I didn't know it till years later. You were trying to perfect that lick so much that you didn't have to think about it when performing it.
That's the goal, yeah.
You were trying to get your brain to memorize.
And the body, too.
In the body, yeah.
Just feel it.
How that flowed, right? So when you did perform that piece, because I think I was at your recital, and dude, this is what I mean. Like you played that fucking instrument, that 5-octave marimba. You made it sound magical. It sounded beautiful. You got beautiful sounds out of it, and those licks you performed them the way they were written, which is not easy.
They were hard, yeah.
Very fucking hard. So yeah, man.
Thanks so much.
I've never seen anybody, by the way, perform it better.
Oh, really?
Yes. Not joking. And I watched a few
thanks, man.
after that, and yeah, no joke. So
I felt like a great affinity to that piece. I don't know. There was a vibe that I related to.
I love that piece.
There's a lot in what you just said there that we can kind of get into. I mean, I have my own like practice philosophy, and it's a lot of it is based on doing things really slowly and doing things a lot. A lot. Like as many times as you can, because it's like what you said. It's just like getting it in your body, and like and it could be that you have the metronome at 40,
mm-hmm.
and you can easily do the lick.
Mm-hmm.
At 40.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you going to spend 5 days doing it at 40 a million times a day? But yeah. I don't know. I could be wrong, but there's something that happens in your body that everyone inches the metronome up if they're trying to play faster. And what I used to do is I used to spend a majority of the time on the slower tempo.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that by doing that, when I started getting into the higher levels of the tempo, it was easier. I guess because my body was like just so attuned to that level of movement. And I could be wrong. Maybe it's just in my mind that was happening, but I do feel that. So that's why I spent a lot of time repeating the slower tempo in my practice.
I
mean, I practice fast tempo too, obviously, but
I think the drums coming from drum set's a young instrument still, like it's a little over 100 years old maybe, right? So there's not this like deep rooted tradition of technique and all this stuff and study, right? It's like a folk instrument, you pick it up, you watch others play and you do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So coming from that, I think one thing that's not taught, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even think it was taught in like from our teachers, and I only think this is because a lot of it is, are you putting in the time to figure it out, right? Like I think that the teachers that we had were performers, so they're performing and then teaching, and rather than like if they were only teaching, it maybe taking the time to really describe this shit, they would have had that presence of mind, because a lot of it is a lot of this shit, and I think it applies to what you were talking about, playing really slow is preparing yourself for when you're performing. You that day you might have gotten into a car accident, like you just a fender bender. Fuck, somebody hit me from behind. Like something could happen in your life that day, and you have to perform that day or that night. So if by practicing, like you said, a lot, you're spending tons of time doing the same lick, and you're doing with each part of the piece these licks. There's no question that you're going to execute it almost to perfection because you put in that time. You know it so well. But if you don't put in that time, and there's always this like, I hope I can nail this lick, which is how I performed that piece. Like there were so many of those licks. I was like, I hope I could perform this. When you have life shit happening, you I don't know, that life shit, that distraction of life gets in the way of the performance. So with these guys, with our teachers, I don't think that they understood how to describe to us the movement in between the strokes, the movement in between the notes. Like that's what I think were. Well,
that's another thing. Yeah, if you're going real slow, you can spend the time looking at what your body's doing in between notes.
Yeah.
And basically, this is like another thing that drummers have to do, but everyone has to do. But because drumming is so physical, I think it's when I see people play, I think a lot of people sometimes with drumming, when I see someone play that I think they could be better, like someone that's not really sounding so great, maybe. A lot of times it's not because of what they're really doing. I mean, it's just that they're doing excess movements.
Yeah.
So it's like if you cut out those excess movements,
yeah,
that it's not going to like magically cure every other note you play, but it'll significantly make the other notes better, I think.
Or not preparing.
The preparation of the notes too. Yeah.
And I think by you playing so slow, you figured that out.
You're forced to deal with all those preparations when you're going that slow.
I'm only saying, by the way, that like I had to learn how to teach my students that concept.
It's hard to teach them because they don't want to go slow.
They don't want to go slow, and then you have to sell them on going slow. Yeah. It's hard, but I think a couple of the students learned to understand why. And like you said, when you do slow down, and when your body and your mind remember that pattern of, and not just pattern of the notes hitting the notes, but the pattern of movement between the notes, and then when you find a comfort, and I always say, like, can you do it 8 times in a row? Like I always say, 8 should be.
Yeah, I had the 5-minute thing. I would put the timer and say, if you could do it for 5 minutes straight, then you can really do it.
Oof. That takes balls, man.
Yeah, I used to have the phone out with the timer. I just do like each lick for like a certain time.
Yeah.
And then when it becomes like a meditation or something, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's the only way I could do it. Yeah, I just think of it like a meditation.
You get to those notes, to those licks or those parts in the piece, you've already spent the time. Exactly. It's so familiar. So you're going from familiar experience to familiar experience all the way through. Mm-hmm. You learned it in pieces, but putting it together was so much easier.
And by the way, what you just said there, if you put in that time, if you do make a mistake, which you will, everyone will make a mistake. If you make a mistake, it will not sound as bad. It's almost as if like I read a book recently where someone said, well, I told you we're going to talk about the Iliad. Because I'm going to give you an Iliad story right now. Homer, Iliad,
Let's do it.
And the Odyssey. I was reading this book, and somebody was analyzing the poetry, and I don't know ancient Greek, so I have to take this person's word at it.
Sure.
And you say, well, the ancient Greek in some of the Homer's passages is not as good as some other people. Like sometimes he's a little sloppy, And then the other guy, it was a dialogue, and someone else was saying, yeah, but I'd rather, or no, it was Longinus's treatise on the Sublime, if we want to get specific of it, which is a great book for art. Anyway.
What's it called again?
It's called On the Sublime.
On the Sublime, okay.
It was written I think in the 1st century A.D.
Wow.
So it's not a dialogue. I was wrong about that, but it's like a philosophical work. And he's talking about Homer And he said, I'd rather, even when Homer is making mistakes, I would rather be him than somebody else.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
wow.
So it's
Yeah.
like, what you just said made me think of that, because it's
Yeah.
like, if you put in the time,
Yeah.
when you do make a mistake, it's like you've earned it. It's like
Yeah.
you've earned the ability to say, you know what, I messed up a couple notes on this lick, but it still sounds good because I know what I'm talking about.
Do you think that
That's different than somebody that plays the lick wrong,
Yeah.
and makes a mistake, and you can tell they don't know what they're talking about.
because there's
Does that
not
make
enough,
sense? I don't know if that Iliad
I think
thing made sense,
I
but
think it does.
I think there's like some kind of analogy there that I was,
I think but what you're to me what how I translate that is you've spent so much time at those slow tempos.
You've earned it.
You understand that flow of movement, so you're more likely to make a seamless recovery.
exactly, yeah, that's part of it too. Yeah,
Like I can't tell you how many times our buddies would perform something. Ah, fuck, I fucked up. And we'd be like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
It sounded good.
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. And
Everyone
you're
feels
so
that way.
invested in it. Like we were talking about this before we even started, which was I said, and remember we were saying we should talk about, I think that we spend years, man, upon years, either digging a hole or building a tower of knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we go so deep or so high in the sky with that knowledge that when we interact with somebody who has zero, not even at a basic level, zero knowledge of music, they don't understand eighth notes and patterns of rhythm. Like they don't even understand any of that, right? They don't understand what sound is which. That we forget that, like we almost give the listener, the common listener, the unexperienced music. They're non-musicians, but they're just the common listener. We give them way too much credit, right?
Well,
So,
this is a good segue
Let's do it.
because I told you before we started doing this recording that I'm very interested in your kind of feeling about the audience there,
sure.
because I don't know if I completely agree with that.
Go
tell
for
you,
it.
Tell you the truth, but I'd like to hear what you're talking about.
I think
Not that
that
there's a right answer, obviously.
no,
but it's just interesting to talk about.
it's what this obviously whatever this comes down to is this is what gets me to survive. This belief, like this helps me navigate, right? And it might not be helpful for anybody else, but I do think that from teaching, this is how I discovered this. I literally have to take somebody who's, I'm going to use the word in quotes. I don't mean it in a mean way, but dumb at what the subject is. Like that's what it is. They don't know anything about it,
Yeah.
but they want to do it.
Yeah.
Right? I have to climb down from my tower or climb up from my cave, of knowledge and get on their level. And that, in concrete terms, that's me thinking about those first steps. And then how do I translate every step, why you make every step, and basically put them on a course to get to where I'm at, but without having to spend years making mistakes, like the wrong mistakes or doing things the wrong way to learn, which some can argue like, no, they should make those mistakes. However, I disagree. I have the knowledge if I'm willing to take the time to just redirect people, I think that's great. That I think they would become good musicians. Like one of my students could totally go become a professional musician when he's of age, when he's an adult, without a doubt. It's like not a question to me. And I think my ability to come down to his level and explain to him every step, put him on a course, and not give up when he even doesn't understand. Like I always have to figure out what's another way to explain this. So the audience isn't invested. They're invested less than my student. They're just there to absorb.
Well, yeah,
and to
there's a
consume.
difference. If you're teaching somebody,
Yeah.
then you have another responsibility, because I mean, if you're playing to an audience, I mean,
Sure.
in some respect, I guess you could say you're educating them, because if they're seeing a beautiful piece of art in music or whatever it is, then hopefully it should have
Unfortunately, we don't
and
have control over that, though.
well, yeah, but you don't have control over that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good point to make too. It's like, but yeah, if you're teaching somebody, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
thing, because your whole responsibility is to learn. I agree with you there, because you don't want to give too much information. Like if I'm talking to somebody who's like 12 years old or something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I say that you should be doing something like this. Now, in the back of my mind, I know there's probably 20 examples I can give you that are exceptions or different experiences that I've had in the past 20 years or whatever, like that would go against what I just said. But it's
Sure.
like, you know, right now, you
Right
just
now.
need to know this.
That's it.
And so when I first started teaching, I would give like too much information.
Same.
And I think everyone kind of does that, because like you're excited to tell everybody everything.
Yeah.
But then it's like,
Yeah.
so I agree with what you said there. It's like you have to give them where they're at,
Yep.
you know.
You always have to meet them. So
Yeah.
now I'm not saying we have to meet the audience there, because what I do think though, I guess so where do I put that belief? Like, what do I do with that thought? Then maybe that's really the question. I guess when you're creating and you're performing, here's one thing I do. Doesn't matter if I'm playing a cover gig or an original gig. If I'm on drum kit and I know that I'm with a solid group of musicians, all I care about doing when I'm playing is making the band that I'm with, I want them to be excited about playing. I'm playing for my band. I'm not playing for the audience. But that doesn't mean I'm doing like a fucking flashy shit to make, I'm trying to play simple shit that I'm supposed to really well so that they play better. This whole thing basically makes the entire thing sound better, and the audience, the result is they get a better performance. They get a better show.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with I'm the drummer in the back.
With that.
I don't have to interact with the people in the first row or whatever. I don't have to. My job is to serve and provide something. And if I can directly like aim my attention at getting like the bass player and keyboard player, the guitar player, even the singer, if they're willing to turn around and like interact for a second, excited. The audience is going to absorb that excitement. The audience doesn't even understand what I'm talking about with where the music's gelling and there's that energy. I think they only know.
Well, that's something that's interesting, because I kind of think, you don't think they understand like when something's good, or they don't comprehend. I mean, they must. I mean,
I think they understand.
Audiences know when there's a bad performance or if it's not feeling right,
I think enthusiasm is something, when it's genuine, audiences love. Like if the band looks like they're genuinely having fun.
Yeah, they can feel that energy.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, I've seen bands that don't sound that good, but there's a ton of enthusiasm behind it, and the crowd loves it. You know what I mean? Like wonky sounding stuff, So this is where I mean where you can have killer musicians on stage, but if they're just so in their instrument, right, in playing, and the audience isn't a bunch of nerds like us who know what they're doing, they're not going to be interested. It doesn't translate. There's seriously a huge wall of miscommunication. Like it's like, hey, we're just here to be entertained. Hey, we're gonna play, the band. We're gonna play the shit that inspires us, and it's at a really high level. You know what I mean? And we're not gonna come down to your level. It's a weird thing.
Well, there's certainly like there's like a phenomenon. I mean, you're not going to hear a Warning quartet at a stadium, like that many people. You know what I mean?
But why not? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, you could. I mean, it'd be like. I mean, there's different audiences for different things.
Yeah.
I do agree what you said about like if you're enjoying it, like your job on stage is like, because I think if you're thinking about the audience too much, it'll trip you up. If you're constantly thinking about whether or not they like it, then you're going to be like trapped.
Exactly.
Because then you're going to be thinking like, shit, am I going to do this fill, or am I going to play this? Like, do they like it?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's been in that special situation, or even like, you look out in the audience, like you notice someone and you're like thinking about, what is he thinking when I'm playing, or whatever it is, and that'll trap you.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with what you're saying there. about, I mean, listen, you could only experience what you experience. I could only like what I like.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the only thing I can do is play music that I like and play in a way that I like. And I have to imagine that, like, with the amount of experience and studying I've done, I mean, it has to be that if I like something, there has to be some percentage of people, even if it's just the percentage of people that are in this room listening to it, there has to be some percentage of those people that would enjoy it if I like it. And so I agree with what you're saying there. I mean, that's definitely because what I mean when I mean like playing with the audience and all that stuff. I don't think you should be trapped and second guessing yourself. You definitely have to be true to what you're doing. But
what was your answer now with the idea that the audience is inexperienced and there's a lack of knowledge and we give them too much credit? Was that sort of your answer to that, or was there because I did kind of take that in another direction.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think there was like two things that you were talking about, because when you're talking about, all right, you're behind the drum kit and you can't focus too much on the audience. You have to play what you think is good, and by virtue of that, make the band sound good.
Yes.
And give them the energy. And by doing that, you are making the audience enjoy it more. And so I think what you just said there is, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think everyone would pretty much agree with that. It has to be, because if you're constantly thinking of what the audience is thinking of you, then you're just being so self-conscious, or you're hamming it up. And you're just doing a million fills because you're trying to showcase your talent to everyone. And that's not good either, because that's easy to perceive. Everyone knows when someone's just masturbating on stage.
I'm so glad you used that word.
But I do think that, I mean, I guess because I haven't been performing all that much the past 4 years or so, and I've been spending most of my time writing, I'm spending most of my time thinking of the perception of what the audience is to the piece, because I can tell you like what the work I'm doing now, but a lot of it is like recorded too. I did a lot of music and dance pieces, but they were recordings that I made. So in those cases, I was actually at some of the performances in the audience and like seeing it from their point of view, which is like new for me.
What was that like for the first?
I'm nervous as hell, man.
Really?
I am so nervous. I tell you the truth, I have played in front of like large audiences in any kind of situation, from playing to 3 people to 1,000 people in any situation, and I'm more nervous sitting in an audience listening to my own piece.
Really?
Because I'm just like, oh man, I really, because I really hope they like it.
Is it?
And once you're watching the piece, there's nothing you could do with it. I mean, obviously,
is it a thing of your hands aren't in control of some of it?
Yeah, it's like out of your hands, and you just hope they like it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I should clarify, I guess, because the pieces that I've been doing the past couple of years are music and dance pieces that I've been working with choreographers, and because of the large amount of like percussion and different kind of instruments that I use, I decided that it would be more worthwhile to spend money making recordings of the music in the way that I want it to sound, rather than, cutting down the instrumentation in order to do live music and dance. I'm building up to do live music and dance.
Yeah.
But, it takes a lot of rehearsal, it takes a lot of instruments, a lot of time. Much. So the pieces I've been doing the past few years are recordings that I make for different choreographers, and then they perform live with the pre-recording, which is great because I get a lot of control in the music. I mean, I get final cut on everything that's in there, writing the music, recording it, editing it, however I want. And, maybe like I've done like some videos too, where a choreographer will do like a video and we'll put the recording to the video, things like that. But yeah, to answer what you're saying in the being in the audience, it was a completely new experience. The first time I saw a music and dance piece where I made a recording, I had to get drunk. To tell you the truth, I was so nervous. I was just like, I had to pound back some drinks, man. And I was still nervous. I was just sitting there, like my heart was pounding. I was like,
is it a thing of?
I don't know. I guess
I hope
maybe
I'm
I'm
understood.
Paranoid.
Maybe. Like, is it a thing of like, I hope what I'm going for here, artistically, is understood? Is it sort of
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. Because I really, obviously, you want as many people to enjoy it as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and especially, I think making a recording too, you're living with the piece maybe more
Oh yeah.
than like if you're rehearsing a piece, maybe you do 3 rehearsals and they're a couple hours or whatever it is, and then you perform,
Yeah.
and there's like that feeling of being in the moment. But if it takes like 2 or 3 months to write a piece, record it, because I would record like the percussion over 2 or 3 sessions, and then I
Mm-hmm.
would record the violin maybe a week later and some other play, and then in between you're kind of tweaking and writing more,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
perfecting the composition, and you're going through it and you're editing, and then maybe you edit the drums and you
Mm-hmm.
go back and you say, fuck man, let's do another take of this isn't cutting it, and then you go back, you do a fourth session. So you're kind of living with the material like in a more intimate way, so that
Sure.
like maybe that is the reason why I got a little nervous, because it's like fuck, like you're living with it,
And you
and you're
know
like,
it
wow, I really want people to like it,
you know all the pores
yeah, and I
on the
know all the
skin.
things
You know
that
what
are
I
in
mean?
there.
You know every hair,
Yeah,
right? Because you spent. Now here's a question: because traditionally, you commission a piece and you hire people that can play it, right? Now, if you're writing for, let's say, whatever instrument, and the one player isn't like, they didn't interpret what you wrote on the page the right way.
yeah,
So now you're in a rehearsal, and then the frustration of like, it's hard to communicate to them how it's supposed to be played. Can they do this? Do I have to change anything? Right? You have eliminated that from from this endeavor by recording it, right? My question is,
that's true. Yeah, you eliminate some of those problems. Yeah,
but don't you create some more with the obsession because of how much control you have?
exactly. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do. And you know what? There's ways that I try to counteract that obsession, because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
You start doing a thing where like you'll take a 30-second clip,
Mm-hmm.
and and sometimes I'm playing on the recordings, I should say too. I'm playing percussion, and there's a great percussionist that I work with a lot, named Adam Foreman, who I met when I lived in Queens, and he's a great percussionist. It's like kind of like one of us. Like plays a lot of different music, drum kit and classical, and
Shout out to Adam.
John Cage and all that. Adam is out there. He's in California now, Sacramento, but he's great. And we're playing, and we have 4 hours, and it's like, well, fuck, let's do 30 takes of this. And then you go back home, and now it's like you have 30 takes of every part or whatever it is. And so, one of the ways is to try to limit the takes. Another thing that I do is when I write the music, this is something that has helped me. I make certain parts of the music. I say, okay, I'm going to do these parts until they're right.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it takes 75 takes,
Mm-hmm.
8 hours a day for 10 weeks, we're going to get these parts until we're completely happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I put parts into the composition, and I isolate certain parts where I'll say, you know what, this is going to be one take no matter what happens.
Okay.
And so I'll say, all right, you're going to play like the music I played you earlier. I did that with the violin player.
Okay.
I recorded all the percussion, and all the percussion was done in like whatever, 5 or 6 takes or whatever.
Yeah.
So we did as many takes as we needed to get it right. And then when I recorded the violinist on this one section, I said, all right, I told her what to do, what notes to play, whatever. And I said, all right, one take. So sometimes that kind of eliminates it, because now you have like, there's a little more organic quality to the recording. It's not so stiff, because you
Yeah.
have certain parts that are just improvisatory,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, I mean, if some weird noise happens in that one take, then you don't do it,
Yeah.
if there's some technical glitch. But if you can get it in like one take,
Yeah.
in fact, this one violinist that I was playing with, the great musician, just kind of shout out musicians.
Do it.
Really
Let's
great
do it.
musician, violin player named Sana Nagano, who lives in Brooklyn, I think, but she's in New York. And I used to actually, she started playing with me because I was doing live music of my own pieces without dance, just live music, in like 2014 or 2015. And what I used to do is I used to rehearse the group, like 5 people. teach them my piece, and then I would have her come down, and she never heard the piece, and she would just show up at the gig. And I would just say, I'll just look at you whenever I want you to play, and she would just play.
Wow.
Because I was like trying to find ways to incorporate improvisation without losing the control. So it's my piece every time. It's the same piece every time. It's following the same contours. It's following the same orchestration. But then you start adding that one element, and it's kind of interesting because she never heard any of these pieces. She would just show up and play.
I love that. By the way.
It's very cool.
So cool.
Another thing I do is I don't write music down I haven't. Maybe I will again. But for the music and dance recordings that I made the past couple of years, all the music, I think I told you when I first came here while we were setting up.
Yeah.
All the music is taught by either me singing or explaining or by rote or something like that.
So you have the idea, you can conceptualize the whole piece up here in your head, sort of?
Well, a lot of times it happens in sections.
Okay.
And with music and some of the choreographers that I worked on the music, they would give me certain timings.
Okay.
And my wife is a choreographer, really great choreographer. We could
shout out.
Do another shout out to my wife, Tai Shi Hung.
Cool.
She's a great dancer. She's a great choreographer. She asked me to do music on 2 of her pieces, and I did the music for her. And I worked with a couple other people. And there were certain situations where they would give me timings.
Okay.
All right, because they know maybe what they want to do with the dancing. So they'll say all right, maybe for 1 minute we need this or 2. And the timings aren't exact. I mean, you can work with it as you start writing, But it's nice. So I started, instead of thinking of bar lines and measures and things like that, I started thinking about timings.
Okay.
All right, maybe this is one section and then this section and then blending. And so, and the thing about not writing music kind of happened almost by chance because I decided to do recordings. I decided to do recordings one at a time and overdub things, partly because sometimes the composition maybe wasn't finished, partly because of some of the percussion instruments that I was using. Like I said, my friend Adam, who plays on a lot of the recordings, he was working at a music rental facility, and they had access to tons of stuff, so I used to book studio time over there, and they had whatever you needed, tam-tams and gongs and 11 Omglock and whatever you want, timpani, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we would go to town on that, but it was kind of expensive, so it was well, you have 3 hours to do all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then you have 2 hours to do all this, and you kind of have to find ways to do what you need to do. But keep it organic, and so I kind of just got into this thing where I just teaching people what to play, and keeping it organic. But another this is a question I'd like to ask you. I don't know if I'm bouncing around with too many.
No, keep going. Do your thing.
Here's a question I'd like to ask you. In terms of writing, my philosophy has because of working on music where I wrote scores, and then I also did music these music and dance pieces where there's no score, but the piece is there. It's still written. My philosophy has been that if I don't care about the exact number of notes, I shouldn't force someone to practice them.
Whoa.
So I'll give you a perfect example. There's one piece I have where the whole piece, this whole section is based on a bongo part.
Okay.
A low bongo and a high bongo. And I just sing like that. But you could hear how I'm singing the same thing, the same pattern.
Yeah.
I'm not counting. There's 7 times on the low bongo, and then there's 8.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm just feeling it. So I'll just sing like that to Adam or somebody, whoever it is. I'll say, play like this. And he'll start doing that. And then I'll say, all right, when he hits the high bongo, then we do the high woodblock roll. And then we start getting the bass. All right, now you play this note when he goes up here. So it's all written, but I'm not convinced that I care whether he does 9 one time or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I just want it to be that
So,
phrase. But there are pieces that I do care, where I want this note to be the third note of a quintuplet. Like I've worked it out mathematically, like, and I orchestrate everything. So like my whole philosophy is like, it's like, what do you want? Like, can it be achieved without making somebody practice? Because I could have written out what I just sang.
yeah.
And Adam is good enough to play that, and probably even sight read it. It's just
why you
triplets
asked
or
him,
whatever it is,
right? That's why you asked, him, rather than somebody else or some random person.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the person has to be good enough to do that.
I have a question now, because tell me if I'm right about this. But when you started, you were singing a bongo part, and you said high bongo, low bongo, high bongo, right? I started calculating until I heard your dynamics, like the specific dynamic. Like there was dynamic information that screamed at me versus you basically, what you performed with your mouth right there is, I think, captured what you wanted.
Yeah.
I immediately stopped counting and listened to your dynamic, because that to me told me way more, right? And even maybe even the approach of the note, like the articulation of the notes too. So I guess, am I right about that? Like like the counts don't matter, but the feeling or the character, maybe the character of those notes.
Yeah, this is the problem, because sometimes like I'll talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And they start talking about I remember one time somebody saw one of the music and dance pieces, and then they say, wow, like the whole, or they said something to me, I forget what they said, but something about like improvisation.
Okay.
And to me, I was like, none of it is improvised.
Wow.
Because it's all written. I mean, it's improvised in the sense that, what I just sang, if I sang it to you and then you played it, would produce mathematically different counts of each of those moments. But like you say, the whole thing is written. The phrasing is written. The dynamics is written. The speed is written. Everything is all written in there. And learning with doing these pieces with dance kind of influenced the way that I was approaching it too, because like when I watch the dance rehearsals, they're not looking at pieces of paper. They're talking to each other.
Yeah.
One guy's showing another person what to do. This is how you do this movement. Oh, it's not there. This is how you do this. And so that kind of influenced it too. So the fact that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that some people, maybe got the impression that if I was writing that way, that it wasn't written. But you know what I mean? But my thought is that, I could reproduce any of the pieces.
It's interesting to me.
The same way, even if they're not exactly mathematically similar. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
It makes complete sense, but I'm even seeing a different angle, which is that traditionally you notate, but the notation is there to deliver and to translate what you hear, right?
Yeah.
You're bypassing that, and you're able to communicate to well-versed musicians who can handle and reproduce what you want just by your ability to communicate that literally, like primal vocal voice, So you're bypassing the translation, which is notation, which you can argue actually will double your workload probably.
What, singing it?
No.
Writing it.
Writing it.
Well, especially me, because I did everything by hand. I never used...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I write everything by hand, which is another pain in the ass.
So there you go. So you're saving yourself a lot of time because you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know how.
And plus, I'm playing some of the percussion parts too, so I already know what they're supposed to sound like. So
know
why would I write it for myself to read?
You know how to communicate it.
Well, yeah.
Without writing it down.
Yeah.
And then even when you write it down, there's a chance that it will be misinterpreted. Like sort of, or
there's something beautiful that happens when you're not thinking of like, oh, I'm in this time signature, or I'm here. Because if you were to ask me what time signature I'm thinking of for that part I just sang to you, I'm just not thinking of a time signature, And I have the recording of that part I sang to you. Maybe we could play it if you want. We could listen to it, see what you think.
Where do I find that, sir?
Oh, if you go on my YouTube. page, there's a snippet of a video that I did with a friend of mine who's a great visual artist in Paris. Her name is Julia Leonelli. If you want to look up her work, she does printmaking and painting. And we made a short video where I did some music, and we used...
this is the choreography. I think this is...
Oh, yeah, keep going. I'll tell you where it is.
SoundCloud. Or if I go to your YouTube page.
Yeah, go to the YouTube page. I think that's the easiest way to find it. And it's labeled Music and Prints number 3. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to hear it and see what you think.
Absolutely.
You know.
All right, here we go.
There it is. Yeah, it's like a blue color.
All right. Give me 1 second.
It's like a minute long. But maybe like 30 seconds in, you'll hear the bongo part that I was singing.
Wow.
And that,
You got me fooled, man, because I felt the pulse throughout that. So,
well, there's a pulse. There's definitely a pulse. And, I edited some of those parts together a little bit from the full piece to put it into a minute there. But you can kind of hear that flow. And, yeah, there's definitely a pulse. I think the wood blocks, again, if I was going to write that on paper with the wood block rolls that are happening there, I'd have to figure out, what's going on there,
Yeah.
And obviously you can. It's simple music.
Can I ask you,
But
are you possibly, as a composer, do you think you're a lot more open-minded? Meaning, do you think that there's a lot more wiggle room and space, breathing space for what how exact in your mind is the part versus do you think maybe you're a little bit more open-minded if it's not exact, but the character, the dynamic is there? Like, what do you think? Am I onto something here?
yeah, no, that's a good point because the question becomes like, say somebody wants to play that live and if anyone wants to play that live, then just call me. It'd be great if you want to play it.
Yeah.
But the question becomes like, I'm so used to hearing that recording that if I were to teach that to somebody else or if I were to write it down in a chart, like I said, it's it's that part. It's not like difficult music, really. I mean, technically, it's fairly simple. But yeah, like I would write that down, and then like what happens, like you said, what happens if someone plays something that's a little different? I'm so used to hearing that recording.
Oh, I see.
Then it's like, then I might want to change it. So I think there's two answers to that. The first answer is I try not to be so into that recording that if something different happens, I'm not open to it. Because I think there's a danger of that. You hear the recording so many times when you're mixing it.
That's right.
You just get locked in that's the only possible interpretation
That's
of
right.
it. But at the same time, the second part of that answer, I think, would be that there is a sense in which it's right.
Okay.
And I know it's right, because I know that there's like 10 takes of that bongo part, and I know which one is the best.
Okay.
And I know there's a couple that are good, maybe
Sure.
2 or 3 that you could choose from. But I know which ones are not the right one. So it's not completely subjective. Like I objectively know when it is the right thing. Now, the good thing about that bongo part is I was actually playing the bongo part on that one, which was nice. So I had a lot more control there.
Sure.
And actually, I remember physically cueing when I was going to hit that higher bongo.
Gotcha.
So the woodblock and the drums are hitting those when I was going do 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 dee dee dee. They were kind of following my
That's a live recording.
my motion.
Right.
The woodblocks aren't live. The drums were live. I was doing the bongos, and Adam was playing the toms.
So those two parts together were
Those two were
recorded
live,
together.
and then I added the woodblock on top in sync.
Gotcha.
With the high bongo, and then we did the bass
Gotcha. Okay.
on top, which I always love that bass take, because speaking of what the right take is, my good friend Lawrence Goldman is playing the bass on that one, and this is, maybe a good example of like, sometimes you got to just do an extra take just for the hell of it. I thought I had it. I was like, yeah, we have this part. And then he's like, I want to do another one. I was like, all right, let's just do another one just for the hell of it. And he took that bass bow, man, and like he almost knocked me off the seat. Like he grabbed that thing and was just like pounding into the bass. And I like flew off the chair because we were in like a small room in his apartment recording it. And, and then I was like, holy shit, man. Thank God we did another. I mean, you just killed it there.
You captured, like, forget about how. I think what we're talking about is forget about how maybe the performer is playing something. It sounded, you captured more than what you wanted.
Yeah, in other words, like that's what I had in my mind. I knew it was going to sound like that.
Gotcha.
Whether it was going to be good,
gotcha.
I don't know. I liked how it came out. But
I
guess that's what I'm saying. I know that's what it's going to be. Now, obviously, there's happy accidents.
That's what I was going to say.
There's times where you're playing something and like maybe Adam might do something that I could never have foreseen. And if it sounds good, I'm not going to edit that out.
Yes.
But the other thing I want to say before I forget.
Sure.
Because you said a couple things that reminded me of this, what I was going to say now. Because some of this music was written for live dancing, and they're dancing to recordings. I don't know if other people that write music for dance are thinking this way, but to me, I wanted to simulate the feeling of live musicians interacting with the dancers, moving.
Oh, I see.
And so another good thing about not writing every specific note out is there's a certain element of like chance that's involved, and it kind of gives the illusion that the music is interacting with the dancers, because those hits aren't exactly the same. It's not that it's the high bongo is always on beat one.
Yeah.
Because then the dancers will start to hear that, and they'll just maybe feel that, or the perception of the audience will be, oh, the dancers are dancing to this beat.
Yep.
But what starts to happen is when you shift it slightly, it kind of gives the illusion that the dancers are doing a move, and then the music is reacting, or the music is doing something and the dancers are reacting.
I see.
And it's kind of like an illusion.
I
on
mean,
some level, I guess.
What I like about this though is it's I like art. Look, music as an art form. I like when I see the musician work. You know what I mean? And the same would go for the dancer. And what I mean by that is when I see that takes so much concentration and focus, but also like a level of ability that has only been earned through years of training. And, I love that. That draws me in, like those types of performances. So I like, as a composer, you're thinking about, well, that's ultimately what I want. That's ultimately what I want this piece to look like and sound like. And the way to that would be the traditional way of hiring the musicians, right? But you're like, I don't know. It's so hard to schedule rehearsals and getting the instruments all the time. So this was a cool.
On that recording, there's like 3 huge Thai nipple gongs playing the bass part. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like, well, do I not have the Thai nipple gongs?
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta have the Thai nipple gongs, man. Come on, like we can't have this part without. So it's like, that's like I said before. That's why I wanted to do the recordings, because I was like, fuck, I could just have any instrument, potentially that I want, and I'd rather pay money to do that.
Can I ask a question?
Unless anyone out there wants to pay me money to bring the Thai nipple gong set, then I'll gladly bring them out.
Let me ask you a question. And this circles this. I think you could put this over every topic we've hit. I think this is universal. You tell me. This theme of we. You can even apply this to the current political sphere of discourse, where somebody wants something, and they're trying to express what they want. They're even expressing that they're not happy with what somebody else wants, right? And there is a way of getting what they want, but they're behaving in a way and communicating in a way that ultimately they're not going to get what they want, right? I don't know if this makes sense, but for you, you knew what you wanted. And you, like I said before, there was a road to get there, but you knew there were so many fucking hurdles that you took on something like, what, do you think this was a little bit of an experiment at first?
At first it was.
Like
I said,
recording?
there was a little bit of chance involved, in the sense that, I only had a certain amount of money, and I had to say, well, how am I going to use this money?
Yeah.
And, so I only had a certain amount of time. So, but sometimes those things, make you think outside the box, so they're good. I do want to say, though, I agree 100% with what you say. It's just about getting what you want. But so if I'm not writing it down, it's not out of laziness.
Yeah.
It's just because because some I don't want to give that impression. It's not because all right. I mean, money is a constraint, obviously, but it's not because of some other reason. Like, you have to figure out that plays into it, but it's like, how do you get what you want in the best way? And sometimes writing it down is the best way. I have pieces where I wrote every note.
But you wanted something.
Yeah.
And you figured out a way of getting that due to the around the typical circumstances. And I think, honestly, even I think you can apply that to anything. I think you could, if how you approach anything.
Whatever restraint you have, it can open up new levels of creativity for sure.
If you know that, sometimes we feel things so strongly, and that drives our behavior, and we'll fucking run into a wall over and over again of failure. Mm-hmm. And you know how they say, oh, you're supposed to fail. But there's some things that, if you really think about it, you can avoid that failure. It might not be necessary to fail 10 times. It might be only necessary, if you really, truly think about it, it might be only necessary to fail 3 times. Mm-hmm. And on the 4th go around, you're there. You got what you wanted. But you really just had to stop and, fuck the typical traditional route. I have a theory, and let me test this out. And just by experimenting, I think, right? Are you happy with the way these pieces turned out?
Yeah, I'm really happy about it, and I think it opened up, by necessity, like you said, it opened up the possibilities that I hadn't really thought of, and it's kind of like, maybe if you're it's kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm or something, where you write it out, but it's like you're working with an actor, and maybe they have to do a certain thing, but maybe they don't say the exact word exactly the right way, but it's like you're working off of that energy with them, and it's great. And and to say too, what you brought up about the people that are playing these things, Adam, who's playing percussion, and Lawrence on bass, I should say that, I can only give that amount of, I can only do this technique with them because they already know.
Yeah.
They have Lawrence and Adam, these people have played, whatever, Beethoven, Mozart, they've played Warner, they've played Zanaka. They have they've played world music. There's an intense amount of experience that they're drawing on.
Yeah.
So, it's about the responsibility, when I sing that part to Adam,
sure.
He's putting it in a context of his own percussive world that he's coming from,
sure.
It's not, and like you said, it's kind of maybe earning that,
Yeah.
Because I think there's a difference between having no plan and just expecting magic to occur. Rather, I'm thinking of like, again, to kind of use the calligraphy example, maybe, I'm thinking of like an intense amount of preparation and then just being in the moment.
So that brushstroke
Yeah.
changes the space. The brushstroke doesn't matter. It's the space around it. So you approaching Adam in this way, you got what you wanted and he understood. Like you set the tone. You were able to communicate exactly what you wanted and get what you wanted out of Adam.
Because I knew he would do it.
You knew he was like one of the people in
Yeah.
your circle.
And I'm not saying that music is so complex that someone couldn't play triplets on a bongo, but yeah, I think you understand what I'm saying. Like you have to have people that are able to do that.
How about this? Is it similar to a director casting a certain person to deliver certain lines as a character?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I think.
Like,
but it's like that
yeah.
with dance too, because like when I would go to these dance rehearsals and I would watch the choreographer, my wife or the other choreographer that I was working with. Yeah, watch these dance rehearsals and and then you're trying to cast the right dancer. So maybe 10 dancers come in for an audition and you're watching how people move. And it's like, some people are able, I guess maybe it's like their training. I don't want to say too much about this because like I'm not a choreographer and I'm not trying to have any expertise in this, but like I do notice that like, oh, like this person is able to get that movement. And like maybe this person is not able to get it. Maybe it's like they're coming from a certain training, or maybe they're coming from a certain culture, or maybe it's just different people, whatever it is. But it's like some people are able to capture the certain movement that my wife was going for, or the other choreography, what they were going for. And it's the same with me. Like there's some people that can capture, I guess, the thing that I'm looking for.
Man.
But that's not to say that, I said, that it's so special that no one else can play it. You know what I mean?
But you are.
I'm trying to put it in the best ways.
Is it like it's like a fine line between? Well, specifically with a dancer, I'm sure too. There's a fine line between like investment, like self-investment in the project, in that moment of performance, right? Versus letting go. Sort of. You kind of have to let go what you know. But while also investing enough to communicate physically, I guess, what is called for with this music. Am I circling, sort of?
I guess the simple thing I'm trying to say is that, the people that I'm playing with are chosen because they're able to achieve the sound that I want. It's not to say that other people can't achieve it.
No, I know what you mean.
But it's like it's also Adam is a good friend of mine as well as being a fantastic percussionist.
Why is it that musicians, we don't allow ourselves to go, no, I wanted that sound and that's who I want, meaning you're being so thoughtful is what I'm saying. You're being way too thoughtful. I'm sure there are plenty of musicians who could totally
I just want to tell people that I'm not talking about a technical thing. I'm not talking because there's 7 billion people that could play the triplets in that recording.
Yes,
as technically accurate as that.
It's a communication.
Yeah, it's just a personal feeling.
Like they have to deliver the line. It's like acting. They have to deliver the line the way the director hears the line.
And there's some people that are uncomfortable with that amount of improvisation too,
I think, at what I said way at the beginning of this, which is your ability to play a phrase on any surface, like instrument, whatever it might be, that shines through in your musicianship. So, yeah, of course you would want to find a musician who can do that also, who can deliver the phrase how you hear the phrase. There's nothing wrong with.
Yeah.
There are plenty. You know what, man? There are plenty of guitar players, especially guitar players, to be honest. Some bass players too. I'm not talking shit, but they don't necessarily understand quite the detail of the context, the musical context that we might be playing and maybe improvising or jamming on. And because they're great players, but they're not serving the music. They're not fitting themselves into the music. I'm not interested in playing with them. I learned that almost immediately. That does not take away from their ability. Do you know what I mean? You probably understand what I'm talking about with this, right? Like just people who just don't know how to sit in a pocket or whatever. Like this is no different. It's just from now you're a composer though. So you're like, it's kind of, I don't know how you do it. It sounds really difficult to work with the musician, but also capturing the parts.
It's stressful too, because, it could be that, when you play a piece of chamber music or something, you can look at the score and see what everybody else is playing. Like there's times where we're recording and like, Adam doesn't know what the bass part is.
Oh, wow.
He's just playing the part that I tell him to play,
Wow.
And it could even be that the bass part isn't written yet.
That's similar to actors. They don't know.
Yeah, so it's like it's even what you said about teaching. It's like you have to. I've gotten better at it. I think you have to give people like enough information, that the information that they need.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations where sometimes people give you too much information, and it's like they're eating the rehearsal time or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're just telling you all kinds of useless things, I guess.
Yeah.
But
all right, so much more to that conversation. You guys are going to get that on the next episode, part 2 with Joe Fee. All right, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening, and badum biz to you.